Hello, welcome back to another episode of Money Script Monday. My name is Gabriel Lindeman, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're going to be talking about EFC option number 2 for college funding, which is going to be emphasis on college using MYGAs for paying for college. So with that in mind, let's get started. Why would somebody want to use a MYGA? Well, they use it for the guaranteed rates of return. On the previous episode, we used a money market account alternative, which I would also reference as a MEC whole life policy. Again, the reason why they used the MEC was for the guaranteed growth, and we're looking at 1 to 3%. Same scenario, except the families need higher rates of return. So with the MYGA, depending on the years, from 3, 4 to 5, we can get anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5% growth. Now, I know what you're going to say. Gabe, that's not a great rate of return. 3.5%. I can do better, in a mutual fund. You're correct. But is that guaranteed? Well, I can do better at the bank. Well, actually, you can't. If you look at a 5-year CD, those rates are anywhere from 0.75, and if you're lucky and you invest over $1 million, maybe 1%. So in reality, for fixed rate short term, a short-term MYGA is offering the best guaranteed rates of return out there. And it's almost 300% higher than what you get at the bank. Now, why would a family use that scenario? Well, it's purely an EFC move. So let's give you a couple different options. Family 1, they are EFC eligible, but they have a bunch of non-qualified assets that's keeping them from being awarded, financial aid, grants, or scholarships. So they put that money into a MYGA to let it grow. Now, they don't know if they're going to actually receive any financial aid because it's really dependent on the government or the schools. So they have some money. They split it up between a 3, 4, 5, and 6. So by every year the kid graduates, there's going to be a lump of money that guaranteed growth that if they don't receive enough financial aid, it'll be there to cover the college cost expenses. That's option 1, and that's pretty much the typical MYGA sale right there. Option 2 is the family that they're already in college. They're already receiving financial aid, and they maybe inherited money or won some money, something. Somehow they had a lump sum of money come to them, and when it's time to redo their financial aid forms for EFC eligibility, it puts them out of it. So they have to move that money immediately into something short term, so when the kid graduates, it'll be liquid upon that time. So that's the second option. It's very popular for MYGA. So again, first time they need better guaranteed growth than a MEC whole life option. And the second is if they have it, they just need to shelter it and then let it be done by the time the kid graduates. So that's typically the two scenarios when families would use a MYGA option, or as I call it, a CD alternative option. Because honestly, it really functions the same way as a bank CD if you understand how bank CDs work. Now let's transition to the second point. There's pros and cons to everything. Nothing is a great solution for every family. Every family has their own needs and desires and different situations, frankly. But let's look at the pros. As I said earlier, guaranteed growth. We're averaging anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5% for MYGAs from 3 years all the way to 6 years. That's a great guaranteed rate of return. Again, when you compare it to the banks that are offering 1%, if you give them $1 million, you look like a hero when you're giving them 3.5. No cost of insurance or fees. So one of the advantages to the MYGAs is there's no fees, there's no cost of insurance. $100,000 after first year, you see credited. So it doesn't go negative either. Like with life insurance, there's cost of insurance and fees. It takes 1 to 2 years to break even for the growth. With a MYGA, pure growth from after day 1. It starts earning interest all the way through. No underwriting. This is a typical scenario too. Sometimes families, they want to do a whole life option for the guaranteed growth, but they have health conditions. They might be uncontrolled diabetes, heart disease, who knows? There's a plethora of issues that would make them uninsurable. But the advantage is they still need the advantages with the MYGA. There's no underwriting. As long as they pass suitability review and they have enough assets to justify putting the money away into a fixed product, it's an easy slam dunk sale. And they don't have to go through underwriting, so they have the opportunity to get better so that at the time when the money is liquid, they then can reinvest in something different as an IUL or a whole life option that has better upside potential for long-term growth. And lastly, as I've been talking about the whole time, it's superior rates of return. The rates of return you're going to get from a MYGA is anywhere from 300 to 500% higher than what the banks are offering. So again, when you look at 3.5%, you might say, well, that's not too great. I'm able to get triple that in the market. Correct. But that has risk, and those aren't guarantees, and it doesn't shelter that money from college for financial aid. So you're able to get 300 to 500% guaranteed rates of return higher than what the banks are offering. Now, let's talk about the cons, because everything has good and bad. It's an EFC move only. Just like a MEC whole life policy, it's not designed for long-term growth. At 3.5%, even though that's great, that's not going to keep up with inflation over the next 20 years. So it's purely a short-term move only. Access limitations. One of the things you have to know, if you need access to the money, you can't get it. There are surrender charges applied. So typically they do allow 10% free withdrawal or interest-only free withdrawals, which is, again, at 3.5% at 10% is a lot better than what you would be getting compared to a bank CD. But you just have to understand it's not fully liquid. So if a client puts in $100,000 and then next year they need $25,000, $30,000 to come out to pay for college tuition, it's not going to work. It's not designed that way, and it's built that way not to allow it. Surrender charges. If, like we've been talking about all this whole time, if the clients decide if they buy a 5-year MYGA in policy year 3, they need the access to the funds above the 10%. There's going to be surrender charges. This is the way to protect the insurance company, the carriers, because they're reinvesting that money to prevent you from pulling the money early because it hurts them. So they're able to offer you better rates of return, but you have to keep it there for the full duration. And then this is the most important thing. A lot of college planners don't realize this, but some profile schools, the top private schools in the country, they do count annuities on the profile school assessment. So keep that in mind. Not all schools do, some of them do, and typically, in my experience, the top private schools do. So that could actually do more harm than good if you're not working with a real college planner. They might not know that, put the money into an annuity, and it hurts you in the long term because you're actually not winning any financial aid grants and scholarships. And lastly, one of the benefits is accessing your cash. Like I said before, it does allow a 10% free withdrawal in most MYGAs. It is fully liquid after the surrender period, which is beneficial. So if you put your money into a 5-year MYGA, at the end of the 5 years, that amount of money is fully liquid plus interest earned. You can reinvest it. You could keep it with the MYGA with new rates if it's feasible and it makes sense. You do whatever you want to put it in the bank. The point of the matter is it's fully liquid after the surrender period. And what's really good about that is reinvestment opportunities. So at the time, if you're out of school, you don't need to worry about 3.5%. You can be a little bit more aggressive, and you can maybe put it into an assets under management portfolio, a mutual fund, an IUL, something that has more upside growth. It's your money, and it's fully liquid, which is very important. But to be honest with you, every family's position is different. It would be impossible for me to stand up here and say, the MEC option is best for you. The MYGA option is best for you. Or the IUL option is best for you. Every family is different. And any college planner or financial planner, after having your initial consultation, says this is what's best for you without doing a full assessment of the schools, a full assessment of the student and the family's needs, you shouldn't be talking to them. There's a criteria and a way to sell it to make sure what's best for the family's needs. And that's the benefit of working with a real college funder, a college planner. So in the future, if you have any questions about this, please contact a real college planner, and they can determine which is the best option for you and your family. Thanks again.